lot. Anyway, Bo is associated here. Anyway, the point I want to make is I learned so much. I learned
black, white, all colors, all backgrounds, but I mean, come on, man. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone deserves a shot, you know. Come on, man. You know the thing. You know what I mean? You know the thing. You know what I mean? Come on, man. What I have to do is I have to continue talking about the things that come on, man.
I came down here because I remember the first bumper sticker I saw. I learned that I got hairy legs that turned blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight and then watch the hair come back up again. And I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I love kids jumping on my lap.
Oh, I'm in trouble. What are we, nuts? Dead. You know, come on, man. Give me a little break here. Get a life.
Taking cocaine or not? What do you think, huh?
Come on, man. Black, white, all colors, all backgrounds, but I mean, come on, man. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone deserves a shot, you know. Come on, man. You know the thing. You know what I mean? You know the thing. You know what I mean? Come on, man. You have a problem figuring out what you're from me or Trump, and you ain't black. Come on, man.
The Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
I can hardly wait to meet with that guy who is the stable genius.
Come on, man. I am very willing to let the public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness. Come on, man. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids.
Come on, man. I mean, come on. Take a look at the record. I know a lot of weed smokers.
Come on, man.
Black, white, all colors, all backgrounds, but I mean, come on, man. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone deserves a shot, you know.
Come on, man.
You know the thing. You know what I mean? You know the thing. You know what I mean?
Come on, man. Why the hell would I take a test? I am, come on, man.
What the fuck, bro?
I learned a lot. And I learned that, I learned a lot. Anyway, Bo is associated here. Anyway, the point I want to make is, I learned so much. I learned
black, white, all colors, all backgrounds, but I mean, come on, man. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone deserves a shot, you know.
Come on, man.
You know the thing. You know what I mean? You know the thing. You know what I mean?
Come on, man.
What I have to do is I have to continue talking about the things that
come on, man. I came down here because I remember the first bumper sticker I saw. I learned that I got hairy legs that turned blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight and then watch the hair come back up again. And I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I love kids jumping on my lap.
Oh, I'm in trouble. What are we, nuts? Dead.
You know,
come on, man. Give me a little break here. Get a life.
Taking cocaine or not? What do you think, huh?
Come on, man. Black, white, all colors, all backgrounds, but I mean, come on, man. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone deserves a shot, you know.
Come on, man.
You know the thing. You know what I mean? You know the thing. You know what I mean?
Come on, man.
You have a problem figuring out what you're from me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Come on, man.
You ever get the feeling that everything in America is completely fucked up? You know that feeling that the whole country is like 1 inch away from saying, that's it, forget it.
Oh man. So I'm so sorry. If I don't care if you loved it or hated it. I mean, I hope you loved it, but I really don't care if you hated it. I can jam to that. Like, come on, man. That song might be enough to make me vote. I'll actually go out and vote. I'll vote Biden. Come on, man. Nah, but it is like his best little bits of confusion, right? And it's like, it's such a little catchy tune on top of it. Like, you can't help but to not like it. And YouTube, I did what you suggested. I uploaded that video unlisted. hours ago and it said that it was fine with no restrictions. So I swear to God, if you hit this stream, I'm going to be pissed because I followed your rules. I followed the rules. I don't normally do that, but whenever I posted that to Twitter last night and some other places, people were like, you have to open up with that. And that was the idea. I really wanted to. I just figured I probably couldn't or shouldn't. But we did. We did. And I did. I followed the rules. I uploaded it. It was unlisted for hours. It was still in the good. You know, like YouTube seemed to think everything was fine. So we ran with it. And that's fun. And if you missed it, if you missed the intro song, don't worry. I've got it set up for the outro as well. It's because it's just that good. That's fun. I like whenever people can be like they can be extremely talented, and when you can be that talented and just like keep me laughing all day, that's fantastic. So let me give a little shout out to those that are in chat. We've got Sonic Fox, we've got Matt, Mitchell McCall from West Texas, Mandy, and Helen. Thanks for joining, Helen. So you guys know that tonight we're probably not going to be focusing on that emergency meeting from the FBI that came out of nowhere earlier. We'll watch a little bit of it. We'll talk a little bit about it, but obviously I'm not going to do a whole stream on that. I mean, we've got a pretty decent stream lined up on the FBI, but don't worry. There's no fringe conspiracies here. It's okay, YouTube, because all of this stuff has been unsealed, released, and proven. So everything that I talk about tonight, don't worry. No fringe conspiracies here. Because it's all been documented. I'll say that again. Hey, everybody. What's up? Carol Brooks, we've got you in chat. So, yeah, I will be talking a good little bit. We'll go over the FBI's history because I'm sorry. It just makes me laugh when they want to tell me about propaganda. Like, you and other alphabet agencies are what came up. Like, you basically brew propaganda all day long. That's like your job. Oh, there you go, Matt. And that's exactly what we're going to be highlighting on tonight. And like I said, there's no fringe conspiracies tonight. It's all been proven, documented, released, unsealed, declassified. Matt says, does the FBI do anything other than entrap and frame innocent men? Well, I'll say that I think that that's about 60% of their job. Sounds about accurate. That's a guesstimation. Don't get mad at me, YouTube. That's just a guesstimation. Okay? So before we do get into this, if you feel the need to get your hands on some gold or silver, while it's still cheap, oh yeah, it's dirt cheap compared to what could come in the future. And it's not a get rich quick scheme. I'm not saying you're going to get rich. If you played your cards right, you could be one of those lucky people when everything tumbles. I guess you could, but for me, I don't really see any retirement or social security or anything like that coming into my future. Like, it just won't exist by the time I'm of age for all of that. You know, once I hit like 60, 70, 80, they'll just keep raising it until I can receive my benefits. Like, basically, you'll be like dead for 30 years and maybe your family can get some of those benefits. Who knows? Hello, Tango. That's being awful sweet, isn't it? So there you go. If you feel the need to get your hands on it, I don't say it because I think you're going to get rich, and I don't say it because I think it's the best tradable item in full-blown shift. No, not at all. You need to have other assets such as food, you know, stored away, some storable foods, some stuff that has a good shelf life, a way to filter some water, a way to defend yourself. All of that comes before this. Always, always, always. All right. So, we'll talk about this a little bit because it's just my gateway. This is just like my gateway where I'm like, oh, I can bring up the FBI's sketchy past again. Hey, M. Houston, I'm glad you made it. So as we heard tonight in that emergency meeting, U.S. officials, Iran, the really scary Iran and Russia aim to interfere in the election. Oh my God. Who would have ever thought that other countries might try to interfere in our elections? Man. Yeah, totally kidding there. So Iran and Russia have obtained voter registration information that can be used to undermine confidence in the U.S. election system. Director of National Intelligence John Ritcliffe announced at a press conference Wednesday evening. Yeah, it was just weird. They like hyped the whole thing up, and then I feel like we got a bunch of nothing. It was like a big nothing burger. I was like, oh, thanks. It's the same thing that every other mainstream media outlet warns you about. Thank you for that. Also, rolling into this, I think that this rolls right into some of the censorship that we're seeing today. You guys know there's a bit of a purge going on right now. Some of your favorite YouTubers, maybe some of the people you like to follow on Twitter or Facebook, they're gone. Yeah, they've just been like deleted off the map. They're gone. They're on other platforms though. Like always, whenever somebody has, I know that D Live isn't the most fun place to be, but I am multi-streaming because if one place goes down, hopefully you could, if you actually enjoy my content and you care enough, then you'll go follow that D Live link or somewhere else. I'm trying to figure out some of these other platforms. They're just not necessarily the easiest, so I'll be kind of slow. It takes some getting used to trying to figure out what's going on there. But I feel like this plays into this because remember we got that message quite a while back from Facebook that they're going to be going like 10 times harder on removing or suspending people that could be interfering with the way that you feel about an election. Basically, we're all going to turn into Russian bots again, right? So we're going through that. And right now, it's instead of this time it just being Russia, we have Iran and Russia. So who knows? I could be an Iranian bot. I could be a Russian bot. Some of you guys already think that I'm a shill anyway, so that's cool. The revelation comes roughly 2 weeks before election day. Ritcliffe said Iran has sent threatening emails to Democratic voters this week and states across the U.S. and spread videos claiming that people can vote more than once. Well, I don't know about voting more than once, and it hasn't necessarily been verified, but Krakow did a pretty good stream on something that I hadn't seen. And it does look like with some of this electronic voting, if you just know somebody's like first and last name, they literally used Bill Gates as an example. They went and changed his vote. So I don't actually know how truthful that was, but with some of these new ways to vote that they're like coming up with, they don't seem to be as securitized as some of you might want if you actually think that your vote counts. So there's that. Voters in Florida and Alaska reportedly received threatening emails claiming to be from the Proud Boys, a far-right group. Local law enforcement and elections officials turned the emails over to federal authorities per the Washington Post. So, we've got a big, ugly mix of all kinds of stuff. I'm sure that other countries do like to interfere in our elections. Even though I know that it's a selection, other countries will still interfere because we're talking about a globalist movement. I don't want to get all Alex Jones on you, but that is kind of what's going on. It is a globalist issue, right? So the whole idea is to sow chaos, confusion, and propaganda. And that's exactly what the FBI does. It's like their number one job. They're really, really good at it. And they've absolutely perfected it over time. So who knows? Years down the line, I'm talking like 30, 40 years later when this stuff gets declassified and all of our grandchildren or your great-grandchildren have no idea what it's even for, you'll probably get like some declassified evidence that says that the FBI was even a part of this kind of stuff. I'm just saying it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that maybe, 30, 50 years down the road, some of the stuff like the chaos that you're seeing today will be declassified and you'll see that alphabet agencies were a part of the chaos that's going on. I don't doubt that at all just from what's happened in the past. And now we can jump into that past stuff. Oh, it's fun. I've got a couple of just good articles. And so YouTube doesn't get like too mad at me. Like they're all legitimate. Some of them are even from like some of the biggest news companies out there. Yeah, they probably try to sway you one way or the other. Hey, McChillin. Yeah, M. Houston says propaganda will only accelerate until election day. It's going to be a wild ride. Yeah, buckle up, Buttercup, because it ain't about to be fun. It's just about to be, like, kind of stressful. And you gotta laugh at a lot of it, to be honest. Don't let it stress you out too much. Just kind of laugh at it. This country's going down the toilet either way. So just enjoy the ride. Mandy says, I'd follow you, Fringe. I have issues with DLive chat, but I still watch shows from there from time to time. Hey, you guys, I get it. Like, it's not easy to use these other platforms. That's kind of the problem that I don't like so much. YouTube is easy for you guys. It's easy for me. I totally understand all of that. But if they're going to get rid of all of us, anybody that even wants to bring you a tiny bit of truth, that's not cool. We've got to find somewhere else to go. So check this out. This is like the best one. I'm trying to go from like best stuff to like some of the smallest stuff that maybe you guys hadn't heard of. And it's not a whole lot, but this gives you an idea of how much the FBI knows about propaganda. They know a whole lot. Give me just a second. I've got to check something here now. That looks like an interesting email. Whoever sent me an email, I'll get to it after this stream. So government agents directly involved in most high-profile U.S. terror plots. Whoa. So Human Rights Watch documents sting operations and report raises questions about post-9/11 civil rights. This is a fun one. This is fun. Should have saved it for story time so that YouTube doesn't knock it down. Hopefully they won't, because like I said, like, I ain't got no fringe conspiracies tonight. Even though the FBI would like you to believe that I'm just a fringe conspiracy theorist. That's not why the channel got its name either, guys. It only took a couple months after I made my channel where the FBI put out that report about like those fringe characters. It just like the emoji with the hand slap on the face. That's like exactly what I did. I was like, oh, that's not good. Give me a second, guys. Don't worry. I'm not sick or anything. I was just burning boxes like all day yesterday. I told you guys that in yesterday's stream. It's not good. It's not good to burn all those boxes that are like made in China and have all the plasticky stuff in them. It can't be good for me. So, oh, this is such a good article. Nearly all of the highest profile domestic terrorism plots in the United States since 9/11 featured the direct involvement of government agents or informants, a new report says. The Eerie Fairy, I'm glad you're in here. For some of you guys, I know that Croco was about to be doing a premiere, so if you guys want to hop out and hop in, it's whatever. I'm happy either way. Some of the controversial sting operations were proposed or led by informants, bordering on entrapment by law enforcement. You guys know that. The moment I talked about the FBI, you guys brought up entrapment by law enforcement, yet the courtroom obstacles to proving entrapment are significant. One of the reasons the stings persist. They still happen today. So the lengthy report released by Human Rights Watch raises questions about the U.S. criminal justice system's ability to respect civil rights and due process in post-9/11 terrorism cases. Yeah, you think? It portrays a system that features not just the sting operations, but secret evidence, anonymous juries, extensive pretrial detentions, and convictions significantly removed from actual plots. In some cases, the FBI may have created terrorist, out-of-law-abiding individuals by suggesting the idea of taking terrorist actions or encouraging the target to act, the report alleges. Guys, this used to be, one of those fringe conspiracy theories, right? Because a lot of people had forgotten about when the FBI had started and all of the blackmailing tactics that they used to do and things like that. And we'll touch on that just a little bit here tonight. But this isn't just that conspiracy theory anymore. We know that they give them money for things that they need. Maybe they give them fake things to go and do this plot, and then they sting him, and then it's like, oh yay, the FBI caught this really bad guy, but they were in his ear the whole time. And they never, in some cases, they never even gave them actual weapons. In some cases, they have. But they'll give them the money, they'll plant that seed in their head, and they'll just keep talking in a group of people's ears, or that one guy's ear, and make him do something, right? There's a whole lot of psychology that goes into this. And in the early stages of the FBI, that's like for a whole nother stream. But they had a whole team of people, which this used to be frowned upon. But they had a whole team of people that actually worked just in a psychological division. And I believe that it started out to understand the criminal more. Maybe the people that were in that department actually wanted to understand a criminal a little bit better. And then it turned into, oh wow, we can use what we've learned here to actually steer people and do something with this. Mitchell McCall, this is from The Guardian, but they've just reposted from Human Rights Watch documents. So it's actually from Human Rights Watch. So let's see here. Out of the 494 cases related to terrorism, the U.S. has tried since 9/11 the plurality of convictions, 18% overall, are not for thwarted plots, but for material support charges. A broad category expanded further by the 2001 Patriot Act that permits prosecutors to pursue charges with tenuous connections to a terrorist act or group. In one such incident, the initial basis for a material support case alleging a man provided military gear to Al-Qaeda turned out to be waterproof socks in his luggage. Crazy. Several cases featured years-long solitary confinement for accused terrorists before their trials. Some defendants display signs of mental incapacity. Jurors for the 2007 plot to attack the Fort Dix Army base, itself influenced by government informants, were anonymous, limiting defense counsel's ability to screen out bias. Human Rights Watch's findings call into question the post-9/11 shift taken by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies towards stopping terrorist plots before they occur. While the vast majority of counterterrorism tactics involved are legally authorized, particularly after Congress and successive administrations relaxed restrictions on law enforcement and intelligence agencies for counterterrorism, they suggest that the government's zeal to protect Americans has in some cases morphed into manufacturing threats. So, YouTube, let me just say this right now, because we're going to get into some more stuff. Like, I have more stuff to go. This is just a great article to open up with. When people question the actual narrative, you should not punish them for that. When people say that there's a possibility that there is a false flag happening here, that doesn't mean that nobody gets hurt. That doesn't mean anything. Maybe there was a bad guy to begin with, but if you actually have the FBI or alphabet agencies giving them materials, giving them money, planting a seed in their head, and constantly talking in their ear, we've got a problem. You know? And then the idea of, well, this person is mentally incapable. I'm not going to name any of these things, but you guys have seen some situations where, they make somebody look as crazy as they can. We don't know what's actually happening when they're waiting in jail to go to trial or before we see them in court. All these kinds of things. Think of like MK Ultra type tactics while they're in prison. We don't know what's happening behind those doors. And sometimes, yeah, you guys mess up. Not YouTube, but, the characters involved in this kind of stuff. It's all in plain sight, right? Like, the way that these people work, now this is a little bit fringe because this has to do with a whole different subject of things, but the way that these people work is they do give you little clues as to what's happening. Some people are smart enough to go and find those clues and pull it out, but the American people don't want to listen to that. They don't want to have it in their head that their government could actually be manufacturing threats and actually endangering their safety, because in their heads, government is safety, when in reality, government has killed a lot of people. And I'm not just talking about manufactured threats. I'm talking about all kinds of things on a much higher level than just this. So, I know nobody out there that's probably watching me is new to the idea of a false flag, but some of these kinds of links that I'm pulling up tonight might be actually worth sharing with some friends or some family that don't really kind of get that, because this does give you an idea of just how involved they are in some of these. I mean, we're talking about some of the biggest things that have happened in the U.S. There was somebody talking in, the terrorist ear. All right, so check this out. The report focuses primarily on 27 cases and accordingly stops short of drawing systematic conclusions. It also finds several trials and convictions for deliberate attempts at terrorism or terrorism financing that it does not challenge. The 4 high-profile domestic plots it found free of government involvement, and you guys can argue this if you want to. They did mention earlier in this article it's very hard to get the evidence, solid proof evidence for the courts, but they do say that the 4 high-profile domestic plots it found free of government involvement were the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, questionable, Najib Zaziz's 2009 plot to bomb the New York subway, the attempted Times Square car bombing of 2010, and the 2002 shooting at LA International Airport, El Al Counter. You guys can argue that if you want to. But, I don't really know. Because I do understand that there are some bad seeds out there, right? But I feel like the bigger problem here is because of that psychology that I was talking about earlier, and being careful of what you post online and things. These government agencies know how to kind of get all buddy-buddy with you and amp that person up even more to do so, but oftentimes there's not enough evidence to truly support that. Because they're good at what they do. That is their job. So, but the report is a rare attempt at a critical overview of a system often touted by the Obama administration and civil libertarian groups as a rigorous, capable, and just alternative to the military tribunals, an indefinite detention advocate by conservative critics. It comes as new pressure mounts on a variety of counterterrorism practices, from the courtroom use of warrantless surveillance to the no-fly list and law enforcement suspicious activity reports. You guys understand about the courtroom use of warrantless surveillance. Everybody kind of deals with that. The no-fly list thing that they bring up, they will actually put you, maybe not you, this is more common in people that come from the Middle East, but they'll actually put you on a no-fly list, right? And the FBI will make it seem like they're really looking into you, and they'll pressure these people into becoming an informant, even though they've never done anything wrong and have never had any ties at all to any terrorist group. They'll put them on a no-fly list, pressure them, make them feel like they're going to be in trouble. They become an informant, and then they send them into dangerous areas, right? And basically they need to feed the FBI, CIA, whoever it is, information on different groups that are out there. Now, this happens both in the U.S. and outside of the U.S., but that's a pretty strong tactic that I believe they're still using pretty heavily today. I'm not positive, but there is plenty of information on that. I don't think I have any links on that. I'm looking. I don't think that I do, but if you wanted to look into that, that's an interesting thing right there. And then suspicious activity reports database. I love that. Not really. Obviously, I don't. I mean, your neighbor could call and be like, hey, this person's really weird. And then that gives them like the full right to look into your whole life just because, I don't know, you took out the trash at like 4 a.m. or something. Although I myself find you to be suspicious if you're taking your trash out at like 2 or 3 a.m. I'm like, that's kind of weird. But I'm not going to report it. I'm just going to watch you a little bit harder. I'm one of those weirdos. It's a good thing I don't live in a neighborhood anymore. Like, I don't know. I just like to watch people and the weird things that they do. In particular, Human Rights Watch examines the extent and impact of law enforcement use of terrorism informants who can both steer people into attempted acts of violence and chill religious or civic behavior in the communities they penetrate. Linda Sarsauer, the executive director of the Arab American Association of New York, a social services agency, has told The Guardian she almost has a radar for informants sent to infiltrate her Brooklyn community. That's pretty bad if you've like sent so many people in there and just picking anybody up off the street to be an informant. Like, yeah, eventually they're going to know. So while the FBI has long relied on confidential informants to alert them to criminal activity for terrorism cases, informants insert themselves into Muslim mosques, businesses, and community gatherings and can cajole people toward a plot who perhaps would never have participated in a terrorist act on their own initiative, the study found. This stuff is crazy. Many trade information for cash. The FBI in 2008 estimated it had 15,000 paid informants. About 30% of post 9/11 terrorism cases are considered sting operations, in which informants played as an active role in incubating plots leading to arrest. According to studies cited in the Human Rights Watch report, among those roles are making comments that appeared designed to inflame the targets on politically sensitive subjects and pushing operations forward if a target's opinions were deemed sufficiently troubling. It's just so crazy about. And you know what the sad thing is in most of these that you read about, they'll talk about the Middle East stuff and some guy named Muhammad and mosque infiltration, and in a way, it gets a whole lot of people okay with it because, you know, the mainstream media has put it in your head that the Middle East is 100% dangerous and all of those people want to kill you, right? Like, they've put that in your head, and there's a lot of people that really think like that. So they're just fine with these evil tactics used as long as it's just on those people. But you kind of need to understand the same tactic could be used on you as well. You know, it's kind of like a flip-flop scenario. We'll tell you about one thing, but secretly we're doing this for all groups of people. Now here's a fun one that a lot of you guys know about, and it's on Operation Northwoods. So I won't even get too deep into this one because most of you guys have either heard of this or you know probably more about it than even I do. Mick Chillin says everybody's got a price. Mine is $100K. I'll snitch on everyone like Tekashi 6ix9ine getting out of jail. Oh my gosh. Alright, so Operation Northwoods. In the spring of 1962, a few months after the launch of Operation Mongoose with General Edward Lansdale at its head, an incredible proposal was put forth by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Operations Northwoods called for faked and actual terrorist actions against the U.S. to be conducted by the U.S., but done in such a way that they could be blamed on Cuba. This would provide a pretext for launching a full-scale military invasion of the island nation and the removal of Fidel Castro. That's as summed up as it gets. Now, there's a whole lot of information on this. There's, like, you can get into this really deep. But like I said, most of you probably know more on it than even I do. And for others, I just don't want to spend too much time on it because this could be like a whole fucking series getting into Operation Northwoods. It was a pretty big event. And no matter what you think of MLK, I just wanted to bring this up because the FBI and CIA were very involved with him. Now, some of you might say they were involved in ways that kind of grew the movement or grew the group, and others will argue that no, they were there to take it all down. I'm not really sure exactly where I stand on that. I know that MLK most likely got his stage and was allowed to be there because he was useful to whomever else that ran the country, right? Like, for whatever reason, it was a useful moment. There's also something else that Croco did a stream on. I'm not sure if it's still up or still available, but Erie Fairy, was it the Boule Society? It's basically about how there's a kind of a cult type group that's just for black men. So you would think like probably LeBron James is in there, MLK probably was in there. Croco did a great stream on it, and it's something that I had actually never heard of. I figured there was a group for these kinds of men. Boule, thank you. If you know where his video is on that, or if it is somehow easy for you to pull up, pull that up, because that was a really, like, I learned a whole lot from that stream. So I kind of had a little bit of a different opinion on MLK after watching that, but I did kind of want to bring this up on the letter that they sent to him and a ton of other things, because the FBI was involved in a ton of other things. It's actually not just this letter, but it is interesting because this letter that I'm about to read was sent to MLK by the FBI, and it was kind of a failed tactic, to say the least, because it didn't work. And then, you know, we kind of know what eventually happened. Thank you, the Erie Fairy. That is fucking awesome. That's a damn good stream right there. Like, I learned a lot from that. All right, so King, in view of your low-grade, abnormal personal behavior, I will not dignify your name with either a Mr. or a Reverend or Doctor. And your last name calls to mind only the type of king, such as King Henry the Eighth. I think VIII is the 8th. I could be so wrong. They don't really teach you Roman numerals in school. And his countless acts of adultery and immoral conduct lower than that of a beast. So many of you guys know, like, JFK was very involved in some wicked stuff back in the day. Some of those kind of, maybe they didn't have a bunch of kids during that time, but you might equate it to some of the weird Hollywood events that go on today. You could kind of equate it the same way. Lots of drugs, orgies, probably same-sex sex, I don't know, all kinds of things were going on in that time period, and they kind of had this dirt on King. So, King, look into your heart. You know you are a complete fraud and a great liability to all of us. I feel like I shouldn't say Negroes on YouTube, but at the same time, that is what's written. So if you're a really sensitive person, I'm sorry, but that is what's written. White people in this country have enough frauds of their own, but I am sure they don't have one at this time that is anywhere near your equal. You are no cavalryman, and you know it. I repeat, you are a colossal fraud and an evil, vicious one at that. You could not believe in God and act as you do. Clearly, you do not believe in any personal moral principles. King, like all frauds, your end is approaching. You could have been our greatest leader. You, even at an early age, have turned out to be not a leader, but a dissolute, abnormal, moral imbecile. We will now have to depend on our own leader, like Wilkins, a man of character, and thank God we have others like him. But you're done. Your honorary degrees, your noble prize, what a grim farce. In other words, or in other awards, will not save you. King, I repeat, you're done. It goes on to some of the sexual stuff that they've caught him in, and this is the FBI blackmailing. They actually have recordings of this. They have audio of it. Some of it isn't even set to come out until like 2030 or 2050. It'll all be declassified. But basically the last paragraph says, King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know exactly what it is. You have just 34 days in which to do. This exact number has been selected for a specific reason. It has definite practical significance. You're done. There is but one way out for you. You better take it before your filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self is barred to the nation. And this is weird because it was happening under J. Edgar Hoover at that, which he himself was a part of some crazy parties. He kind of kept to himself and wanted to keep it all secret, but he was involved in some crazy stuff himself. For any of you that know a little bit about J. Edgar Hoover, he was kind of a fucked up dude in the head as well. So it's interesting, the same lifestyle that he chose to live, he would blackmail others for living in that way. It's so crazy to even think about. how the FBI conspired to destroy the Black Panther Party. Now, again, I think that something like the Black Panther Party was an organic movement that started up, but like any other movement that starts organic, eventually you're going to have what you guys might call a shill or an infiltrator come into that system and kind of break it apart, cause division, cause all different kinds of things, right? But tonight I'm just trying to bring up stuff that's like, it's legitimately documented and there's no arguing it, right? So the assassination of Black Panther Party leader Fred Hampton in 1969 was just the beginning. This was a pretty crazy story. And again, J. Edgar Hoover was involved with this one. In the wake of the raid, Illinois BPP, Black Panther Party Minister of Defense Bobby Rush stood on the steps of a bullet-riddled Black Panther Party apartment and declared that J. Edgar Hoover and the Federal Bureau of Investigation were responsible for the raid at this time. Rush had no hard proof to back up his claims. Over the course of the next 8 years, however, activists and lawyers, myself included, would eventually discover the truth. The FBI had in fact played a central role in the assassinations of Henronan's. Initial lies were only the top layer of what proved to be a massive cover-up. So if I remember this correctly, the way that the evidence broke down, it might actually be in this article. If I'm remembering this correctly, the Black Panther Party shot one shot. There was one bullet that came from the Black Panther Party, but there were over 100 that came from those Illinois police. It was literally like a massacre kind of style sort of deal. Maybe they actually tell it in here. I don't know if they actually tell the story. Give me just a second. I'm trying to see. Either way, just know it was like totally unfair. And later on, the FBI actually did infiltrate, and other alphabet agencies as well did infiltrate the Black Panther Party, just as they're probably infiltrating things like Antifa, Proud Boys, Black Lives Matter today. There's always going to be somebody there that's trying to push someone else to the absolute extreme. And we see how things can get to the absolute extreme today because of social media. If Croco ever has time to get back to me, I really want to do our breakdown of the social dilemma on that stream. We might have like some differing opinions on things, but I can at least agree in one sector where most likely, whether it be AI bots or alphabet agencies themselves running accounts, there are people pushing folks to do the absolute extreme. That is happening, but I don't really understand the best route to fixing the situation because I hate censorship. Lots of people are getting censored on YouTube that I don't even agree with, but I don't want to see them go down because I don't care for censorship. So picking out what's a alphabet agency using a sock account and what's a real person, that's a whole nother difficulty because, again, it's just going to get rid of a bunch of people that don't need to be gotten rid of. Meanwhile, alphabet agencies are probably still sitting in the background, making and posting on fake accounts. Oh, Ryan Wins. Ryan Wins, I think Wins is your last name. Most famous case is OKC. Yeah, the Oklahoma City bombing. That was a huge one. I don't have anything pulled up on that, but that was a huge one. Yeah, the Whitmer thing too. I could agree with you on that, Matt. Like I said, we'll probably never have evidence, if there is any evidence, for the next 30 to 50 years. But I could agree with you. Schemes like this come up. That's just their tactics, right? And people want to get so mad at you whenever you say that, hey, it's a possibility. But at the same time, if we look at the history of how these alphabet agencies have built themselves up, it's pretty easy to see where someone like you or I might be coming from, right? That's not hard if you actually look at the solid evidence that we have. And I've just pulled open a few links. There's like, you could literally make a whole channel, a whole podcast off of effed up stuff that alphabet agencies have done to frame someone else, This one's actually about framing. 4 men were framed. 2 of them died in jail. 2 of them got released, but basically the U.S. government had to pay out a little bit over $101 million for framing these men because the FBI wanted to keep an informant alive, even though he had actually done some of the murders. It's just crazy to think about. This one's just like one of those. I wanted to bring this up because this sounds like some kind of plot to a bad movie. So in what appears to be the largest sum of money ever awarded to people who were wrongfully convicted, a judge today ordered the federal government to pay $101.8 million to make amends for framing 4 men for a murder they did not commit. Could you imagine dying in jail for a murder that you did not commit? 2 of the men died in prison after being falsely convicted in the 1965 gangland murder. Another, Peter Limeland, spent 33 years in jail before he was exonerated in 2001. The 4th, Joseph Salvati, spent 29 years in prison. It took 30 years to uncover this injustice, Federal District Judge Nancy Gartner said in announcing her decision. She said the case was about the framing of innocent men, adding that FBI officials allowed their employees up the line to ruin their lives. It's just crazy. The memos indicated that the government's key witness, a hitman for the mob named Joseph the Animal Barboza, had lied when he said the 4 men had killed the victim, a low-level mobster, Edward Deegan, known as Teddy. Mr. Barboza's motivation was to protect the real killer, and the FBI officials went along. The memo suggested because Mr. Barboza had been helping them solve cases and because the killer, Vincent Fleming, was an FBI informant. In her decision today, Judge Gertner forcefully criticized the FBI and the argument made by the Justice Department lawyers that federal authorities were not required to share information with state prosecutors and were no longer responsible for the results of state prosecution. It's just sad. It is a fucked up system, is it not? Now, check this out, because this is like way high up. This is all the way back from, they found out in 1989 this story was released, but I think that it had actually been happening since the mid-40s. Here, I highlighted it. From 1945 to 1975, at least 12 justices were overheard on at least 106 occasions, including Chief Justices Warren and Vinson and Associate Justices Douglas, Felix, Frankfurter, Hugo Black, Stanley Reed, Robert Jackson, Frank Murphy, John Harlan, Potter Stewart, Harold Burton, and Abe Fortas. Warren was overheard 6 times between 1961 and 1965, including one conversation on March 9th, 1964, about a month after the Warren Commission started hearing testimonies about the assassination of President Kennedy, except for the transcripts involving Douglas. Almost all wiretap conversations remain secret, as do even the dates of the more recent ones. The FBI interest in the Supreme Court was especially vigorous under, you guessed it, J. Edgar Hoover, who died in 1972. Evidence is contained in a file of more than 2,000 pages entitled Supreme Court. The Bureau continued to maintain this file as recently as 1985, but there's no evidence that in recent years it contained much more than relatively mundane items. That's just crazy. Like, there's something in the, back then, I'm not sure if they still do that today, but it's just so crazy how deep they went on that one, because the Supreme Court has, like, a conference room that they're the only people that should be in there and hear what's going on in there, and the FBI had actually tapped into that conference room. This just shows you that nobody is safe, because that was all the way back, in the 1940s to the 1970s. So nobody's safe because, Supreme Court, highest of the land. No one's higher than anyone else, by the way. But it just shows you that even in their eyes, in the eyes of the justice system, for them, the FBI, CIA, whatever alphabet agency you want to name, you're not safe from any of their tactics that they use. And just think about how much more advanced it is today. Let's see here. I've actually got something going on in chat that I might want to read. I'm weirdly for and against that whole death penalty thing. I'm reading some of the comments here because if you have 100% proof, like legitimate proof that somebody did some really fucked up shit and it's like 100% definitive, I don't think that somebody should sit on death row forever. Like, depending on the crime that they committed, just get rid of that person. But I'm with you because we've got such a fucked up justice system that there's so many innocent people that end up sitting on death row. You don't really get, the chair so much anymore. If they make a decision, they do lethal injection now. But either way, it's just fucked up to think that that's a possibility. Or that somebody could plant enough evidence on you and make it a possibility. Ryan says, remember the Boston Marathon 2013? Probable feds messed with me on Facebook because a Facebook friend asked me to be a mod for a truther group about the Joker guy. That's weird. It was within a couple days after I was caught up in all the social media and wasn't thinking clearly. It was pretty freaky. That is freaky. What? YouTube doesn't like circus emojis? That's fucking gay. Wow. That's not cool. I would be okay with circus emojis. Like, I don't have any emojis that would be blocked. I think the only way you, like, can't get a comment up on my comment section, I'm not sure about the live chat, but it's just like if it's really inappropriate stuff. Just had some problems with that in the past, so yeah, it is hard to know. Like, Supreme Court. Oh. The fun police. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I have. Anytime that they bring up the FBI, I'm like, oh, I get to do another stream where I can put a little bit of short tidbits together on like how fucked up they actually are. So that's always really fun. YouTube got offended because she used too many emojis. Well, that's silly because, like, on other live streams, I'll see people do, like, nothing but emojis in the chat, which is really annoying. Like, if you're in one of those live streams where it's, like, all emojis from everybody, you're like, all right, I got to get out of the kiddie zone and, like, go somewhere else. I've got to watch something that bores me to, like, level out my IQ in adulthood. But, if you wanted to post a couple circus emojis, it's kind of silly they wouldn't let you do that. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed the stream. Most of you probably didn't learn something new, but some of you probably did. And it kind of gives you that leverage and feeling like if you catch something that's off, that happens out there, and you know that there's something off about that story, well, this should make you feel a little bit better because sadly, I'll say I think often, I'm not going to say every now and again, but no, I think often there actually might be an alphabet agency or a certain group that's been infiltrated by an alphabet agency. I think that they want to push those people over the edge. They want to plant the seed. And if they see that a good seed has been planted and it's growing, then they fund you. Like, then they start giving you money, start giving you items. It's crazy to think that would be happening here in the good old US of A, but that's what happens. And what's really fucked up about it is they do these things to scare the average public into thinking that they need more safety and security from the government. But the ironic, fucked up thing about that is the government caused the very thing that makes people want to run more towards government. It literally, like, problem caused solution, problem reaction solution. My brain's not working. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Snafu got booted? Well, that sucks. I'm just waiting on the day that I get booted. But yeah, so y'all guys be careful out there. Like, whatever little groups that you get into, I know that sometimes it can be kind of, it feels fun to have your group. This is why I'm not really a part of groups anywhere. That didn't sound good either, because the FBI likes to say it was a lone wolf. One of those lone wolf characters. So I don't know what's better, is to, like, have a group of friends where you feel okay with them, But you got it in the back of your head, like, there could be a shill here. Or just to, like, live life by yourself with a few acquaintances and no real friends. I'm not really sure which one's better. Seems like either way, the FBI could probably plant something on you and come up with a grand old story, right? So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you did enjoy the stream, and now we can get back to the super rockin' Biden song. Come on, man. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
I learned a lot. And I learned that, I learned a lot. Anyway, Bo is associated here. Anyway, the point I want to make is, I learned so much. I learned so much. I learned.
Black, white, all colors, all backgrounds, but I mean, come on, man. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone deserves a shot, you know. Come on, man. You know the thing. You know what I mean? You know the thing. You know what I mean? Come on, man. What I have to do is I have to continue talking about the things that come on, man.
I came down here because I remember the first bumper sticker I saw. I learned that I got hairy legs that turned blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight and then watch the hair come back up again. And I learned about kids jumping on my lap. I love kids jumping on my lap.
Oh, I'm in trouble. What are we, nuts? Dead. You know, come on, man. Give me a little break here. Get a life.
Taking cocaine or not? What do you think? Huh?
Come on, man. Black, white, all colors, all backgrounds, but I mean, come on, man. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone deserves a shot, you know. Come on, man. You know the thing. You know what I mean? You know the thing. You know what I mean? Come on, man. You have a problem figuring out where you're from or from, and you ain't black. Come on, man.
The Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
I can hardly wait to meet with that guy who is the stable genius.
Come on, man. I am very willing to let the public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness.
Come on, man.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids, wealthy kids.
Come on, man. I mean, come on. Take a look at the record. I know a lot of weed smokers.
Come on, man.
Black, white, all colors, all backgrounds, but I mean, come on, man. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone deserves a shot, you know.
Come on, man.
You know the thing. You know what I mean? You know the thing. You know what I mean?
Come on, man. Why the hell would I take a test? I am, come on, man.
What the fuck, bruh?